you ever had a couple break up before the big day?
I had a few. We were hiding behind tables. Oh my God, she doesn't know the cake's fallen. And I had a massive pool party with like mermaids and stuff. As I turned around, I heard a massive crash. And I was like, shit. Hi, I'm Raj, CEO of Silver Fox Events, and I've been a wedding planner since 1991. Everything. Honestly, it's like we do so much work. For example, they just think we literally walk around with clipboards all day, and we don't. There is a lot that we do. There's a lot that we plan with suppliers. It takes so much time to coordinate suppliers and making sure that they're all going to turn up on time and deliver what they're going to deliver on the day. We then obviously run the day to make sure that they're having a lovely time on the top table. But one of the most important things where a wedding planner really kicks into force is on the contingency. Like when the shit hits the fan, we're there to make sure that we fill those holes for them and the wedding just carries on.
And how many hours typically go into planning one wedding from start to finish?
That's a really, really hard question. I would say realistically that it takes, say if we have 9 months to plan a wedding, we would probably do around about 50 to 100 days worth of planning. Say 50 days out of the 9 months. It's quite a lot of planning that takes it. That we don't do anything. Like, are you joking? We do so much pre-work and post-work, obviously with the clear-up, but they just literally think that we turn up on the day and all the suppliers are just doing their job really naturally and everyone's getting served nicely with hot food and lovely cold drinks. And they literally just think we're walking around watching this bunch of suppliers perform. But mate, they will not perform without us. They don't realize actually the intricacies of actually merging all those suppliers together to make it really seamless. They just don't get it. On a scale of 1 to 10, we're 10. Let's just get that right now. I've talked about stress, and I think wedding planning, wedding coordination is in the top 5 most stressful jobs on the planet. So let's put it with a fire, let's put it with a pilot, let's stick it up there. Okay, so that's where we sit for stressful. One of my most stressful situations, there's quite a few. I would probably say when I was in Dubai on a wedding at the bottom of the Burj Khalifa, and there was an hour before the guests were arriving. This is 6 days on, this is the finale, and I walked in and the wind picked up down there because there's loads of buildings. And then we had these tall trees. When I turned around, I was walking away from the whole reception area, and I thought, fantastic, it looks fab. Turn around, let me go and check the nightclub. As I turned around, I heard a massive crash and then another crash. And I was like, shit. So I didn't want to turn around at that point, but I had to. So I turned around and these trees had just fallen down. I had 4 big trees and 2 of them had fallen, 2 of them got saved. But we had mirrored plates, like mirrored glass plates, and all the cutlery and crockery was all set. All smashed, all broken. And we were probably an hour before guests were arriving. I found that quite stressful.
I can imagine.
Yeah, just a little. So luxury is a really odd word, but if you're saying something like ultra high net worth wedding, then you would probably spend £500,000 on 100 people.
And that's a realistic minimum budget.
For an ultra high net worth wedding, if you're going to buy out a castle and have a glass marquee and have 100 guests with wining and dining, all right, maybe 300 grand.
Just a little 300 grand.
Yeah.
Fair enough. What's the biggest wedding you've ever planned in terms of guest count or budget?
So there's one that always comes up, and it's Amir Khan's wedding. So I don't know if you know Amir Khan or not, he's the boxer. And he had 3,000 people at his wedding. It was absolutely insane. And we did it at this Event City place, which is near Trafford Centre in Manchester. We had 3,000 people, sit-down dinner. We had 25 supercars coming into the venue with him in his Rolls Royce right up to the cake. And he actually landed in a helicopter opposite. So while these 3,000 people are sat there, waiting for Amir Khan and his crew to arrive, we had screens all the way around that they could see and hear the chopper landing. So the chopper landing on the car park, we put him into a Rolls Royce, and then we had 25 supercars behind him, and we drove those supercars into the venue. And then they came out where the cake was, and they cut the cake and then sat down for dinner. That was really cool.
What kind of budget are we talking for a wedding like that?
I think I can't say it because I signed an NDA, but Hello probably paid for it anyway. So we did an engagement in Ibiza, 24 hours. So I flew a private jet in with 125 guests on it from Manchester to Ibiza, and then flew another jet in from London with 125 guests on it from London to Ibiza. The jets met in Ibiza a half an hour apart. We put them on really cool buses, but then we started the party. We shipped 250 people to this hotel, which we'd bought out for a few days, and they went straight into the pool area and had a massive pool party with like mermaids and stuff, like you do. Mermaids, DJs, boom, boom, get your tickets. They basically got their bedrooms. They went to their bedrooms, obviously a massive powder room, big barber place for the guys to groom up. Then we walked across the road to this cool club called Leo, it's cool then, like 10 years ago. We took Leo out and then they sat down, we did this whole dinner show, and the bride and groom came from across the water in this little canal boat. And then they had their speeches and everything, and we smashed that out. And then they went to the nightclub, which was in there till 5 a.m. And then we put them all to bed. We woke them up at 9 o'clock in the morning. We gave them breakfast, and we put them back on the planes again at 11, 12 o'clock and flew them back home. That was cool. Mad. There's quite a few, and I think everyone wants their wedding to be different, but also they have the personality of the bride and groom that comes into it. So I've had grooms that are parachuters, and they said, Raj, I want to come in like James Bond. I want to land, with my bride there waiting for me to come down. So we had one guy that really wanted to parachute and sort of skydive and parachute in. It didn't quite work, but we did it because the field where it was landing was about 15, 20 meters away from the guests. So then we saw the entrances are always quite funky on boats and this, that and the other. And, these peddlers if they're in Granada or somewhere. So I think those sort of things are crazy. The craziest thing for a bride and groom, I think it would be something like the arrivals. So we've had hot air balloon arrival. That was quite cool because it was sort of 10 years ago. It was quite new and it was unusual. All the guests were there and they saw them coming down. And then there was one guy, his wife to be's dream was to land in a helicopter. So we got them to come down in a helicopter. That was quite cool. So just crazy stuff like that, really. It's more on the arrivals than anywhere else. Mid-planning, we've had issues with couples and families. When two people want to get married, they fall in love and they're going to get married. So we're like, that's cool. That's beautiful. That's great energy between a bride and a groom, or two people, a bride and a bride, or a groom and a groom, whatever. The couple, they're really happy. But as soon as they get the mums and dads involved and the families involved, the shit just hits the fan. And all of a sudden, you've got this beautiful bubble of energy of two people joining hands. They're in love and they wanted to get married. They go through this whole arrhythmia of going through and negotiating two sets of families and stuff. And in the end, that interference that happens when we're trying to negotiate between two families and the bride and the groom, and they can't agree on flowers or marquee or whatever, that causes friction. And we can deal with it to a certain level, but once it starts getting a bit heavy, then we literally are like, so guys, you either sort your stuff out or we're going to have to leave because we're not going to deliver this wedding as you want. And then the brief gets really smudged. So it's really tricky we have sometimes walked away. Back in the day, it was like really annoying. We did, they wanted like seat covers and like bows on chairs, and it was just really awful. And then they came out with these stretchy seat covers, and they were like £2 to hire, and they take ages to put on. They take ages to get off at the end of the night because they'd see it all over the place on other people's weddings. Obviously, there wasn't much internet and things then. So that was a really annoying thing. And tying bows on the back of chairs. It's all right for a small wedding at 60 or 70 people. You go and do an Asian wedding for 500 and go and tie like 500 bows on the back of a chair and then take them off at the end of the night. It's really painstaking. So those sort of things are really awful. I still don't get wedding favours either. They go to all the trouble of putting the 5 almonds in there, and one means love and fertility and all that shit. They put it in a net and they put it down, and we've got to put them all out after making them all up, and no one takes them home. No one gives a shit. There was some pisshead uncle at the end of the night who might just open it and have a bit of an almond, and that'll be it. Gone through all the effort, no point. We did actually cancel the wedding. So we looked after a bride, looked after the dad. He was from overseas. He was very, very different to the bride that we'd met again. He wanted to do certain things and we couldn't really, do that. And then we walked away from him. And then a couple of days later, he brought us back into the equation again and said it'd be totally fine. And then we took the wedding on. And it was, to be honest, it was a bit of a disaster. because our energy didn't align at all after that. So we did walk away, but we didn't want to let him down in that short period of time we had left. So we went back in again and did it. So there's going to be something that goes wrong on your wedding day, but because you have amazing planners around you, you don't have to worry about it. So there'll be a puncher, there'll be, forgotten ice or forgotten a dish. And I think what consistently used to happen if you look at our bubble of suppliers, like with sound and light or with entertainment, or it was catering. Catering was always a mission, and they'd always forget a dish, like the dessert or something. But why can't they check the menu when they get into the venue and sort of say, right, I've got all my starters, got the main courses, yep, got my desserts, got the petit fours, right, we're in, let's get this thing done. It was sort of like we were going through the main course and then the chef flagged me up. We were in Preston, I think, at the time, and their CPU, their central production unit, was in Manchester, about a good 45 minutes away. Just as we were coming towards the end of desserts, it was like, oh no, I forgot to bring the desserts. I left it in my commercial kitchen. I'm like, are you having a laugh? So I said, all right, fine. What we'll do is then, after main course, I told my Toastmaster, you go into speeches, don't serve the starter, and we'll send one of our drivers back to the kitchen, get the desserts, come back, plate it and serve it after the speeches. All that could have been avoided by some guy just ticking something carefully off in the back of a van. So I think it's that carelessness which really winds me up. But if there's a genuine puncher or a genuine, incident where a supplier hasn't turned up and we've had to cover them, that's fair enough. But if it's just incompetence, it's like, no, I'm not into that. So the biggest secret that we really keep as wedding planners is the things that go wrong on the day. And that could be our fault, could be our supplier's fault. It could be just a general, act of God, whatever it is. So as they're getting married and as they're going through their reception and as they're having their first dance, if one of the uncles has had a heart attack and then slipped out of the room, or we've had that before when an ambulance has come and someone's not been well, so we don't disturb the flow of the event. So that's what we keep to ourselves. And we will tell the client or the bride and groom maybe the next day, or if it's urgent with an uncle, we'll tell them that night or when the party's over. So we hide a lot during an event, and they'll approach us consistently. Everything all right, Raj? Everything going well? Oh, absolutely wonderful. Just enjoy your day. It's gorgeous. It'll go really quick. Make sure you enjoy every minute of it. So they do that. And inside we're like, oh my God, she doesn't know, like the cake's fallen. Things like that, just normal things. So it's like, I think we hide a lot from our bride and grooms because we have to.
Can you tell us that uncle story?
Yeah, so what happened is that we had a wedding reception, and either he drank a lot or whatever. And then we were in the middle of speeches and this, that and the other. And we could just see this guy in the bottom left-hand corner, like sort of like this. And we thought, oh, maybe he's just dozing off and he was a bit old. And then I think one of my operators came up to me and they radioed me and they said, Raj, this guy's not well. He's sweating and he's curling over. And it was in the middle of the speeches. And we're like, just get him out of the room. So we just go over nice and quietly, lifted him up. And then people obviously on that table knew what was going on. We said, oh, don't worry, just carry on. He's all right. Just to give him a bit of fresh air. Took him outside. And then he was literally like having a heart attack. So we had to call 911, call the ambulance, and then have it all done in the sort of back end of the green room somewhere that nobody knows. As soon as they see an ambulance or a blue light, the wedding's over. So I can't have 200-300 people just get up and go, oh, what's going on? What's going on? They're happy to destroy somebody's wedding, right? So it's like, just stay there, have a good time, locked it off, got him off to hospital. And then, he was totally fine. He didn't die, thank God. And then we just told them in the morning or told them later that evening and said, your uncle wasn't very well and he's in hospital right now. Crazy stuff. So when you talk about bridezillas, most brides are bridezillas, but there's a scale, isn't there? So you're saying like a complete bridezilla. So I'm sort of putting that as a 10 out of 10 bridezilla. When they get involved, and we have groomzillas, by the way, let's not just be there, So when you get a bride who starts micromanaging because of the internet and Pinterest, then it just becomes rather difficult to then deliver upon her dreams or his dreams. And then you get that friction again, which we talked about previously with a family member, and the energy starts changing and then you get bad vibes. So basically end up sort of walking away from that event, or you tell them to let go. Because if they don't give you control of this event and they are not there to manage this on the day of their event, they're sat on the top table or having the first dance or cutting a cake or doing a speech, they need to let go of that control, and they need to let go of that control from the beginning. So it's that control that they want to hold on to, but they need to trust your planner. That's what they need to do.
You said they're all bridezillas. How often do you find a bride that isn't a bridezilla? Is it rare?
Never. No, they all have an opinion. Like, it's their wedding, right? They've probably been dreaming about this wedding all their life, and they've had a vision in their mind of how they want it to go. You know, what the aisleway looks like, you know, what the room looks like, what she's going to wear, and the jewelry. So bridezilla means, I think, you know, having an opinion on their wedding. And then when they don't get their way, that's when they sort of start tipping towards the more bridezilla-y stuff. But I think everyone has a little bit of bridezilla in them. This wasn't really self-inflicted or from my suppliers whatsoever. This is weather, but weather is just weather. Like around the world now. We know I did 4 weddings back to back in 4 months, sort of August, September, October, November. Then I was in Budapest, then Puglia, then I went to Greece, Costa d'Averino, and did my last wedding in Seville. And honest to God, every single country, I had a problem with weather. And 2 of the wedding receptions that were going to happen outdoor didn't. They happened indoor. So like 2 days before the actual wedding day, we were doing the pre-wedding parties. There was big announcement on the TV. There's going to be massive floods tomorrow, and then schools were going to close. And the mayor of Seville came on the television and told us like what was going to happen. The bride and groom were sat there saying, "Raj, what are we going to do?" So we're really smart about this situation. So we have an outdoor wedding in 2 days' time. We have flash floods tomorrow. Now, if I was not to cover the land tomorrow and leave it and let it get soaked, I can't use the land the day after because you can't walk on it. It'll be like boggy sand or boggy grass. So what we did is that we covered the whole of that land with these TP tents, like stretch tents, had the flash floods the next day and did the indoor activities. We moved some of the events indoor. And then the morning of the event, we took these screens away and these marquees away. The ground was then dry. We set up the outdoor wedding and the outdoor luncheon and everything else. And we used the facilities on the outside. So I think disaster comes with weather. You know, it's unpredictable. It can happen just like that. And it can destroy an event. But you really, really, really need to have contingency in place with weather. I've had a few. Just recently, again, planning a wedding in Istanbul, going ahead, you know, didn't hear anything from bridegroom. And then it was, then texting and what's happened. And obviously they've split, you know. And I'll reiterate the same point. Like you get a bride and a groom, or you get 2 human beings that want to be together and they're falling in love and they want to just live together nicely and be husband and wife. But because of the outside influences of families and trying to put this wedding together, it can cause them to break. And it really, really annoys me that we had 2 people that were in love and they were supposed to just spend the rest of their life together. And because of this wedding, and now the pressure of making that wedding like a bloody Bollywood movie or like a Hollywood movie, it's putting so much pressure on them and their families. And it's, splitting couples up. And it's really sad. So the craziest thing that happened to me, I was working out in the Middle East and I did back-to-back events, you know, so we did the morning event, pool parties, had parties in the evening, and then we had the after parties till 5 a.m. And it's really, you can't sleep because although your team are doing shifts, they need answers and the answers are coming from me. So I did sort of like 24 hours and I did another 24 hours. And then the 3rd day, we went on to the pool party and stuff. And I think at that point, I was feeling super, super weak. It was very hot out there. I wasn't drinking enough water. And then I said to Sheetal, my wife, who's a partner in the business, and I said, Sheet, I just don't feel it. I'm not feeling right. I'm feeling really dizzy, very sweaty. And I know we've got the finale tonight and it's like the big dinner dance. You know, we had Craig David playing doing the DJing, and it was a big deal. And then during the day, I was like, I need to go and see a doctor. So I went to go and see the doctor in the afternoon. My team carried the pool party, but they all went white. Like my whole team were like, I had a team of, I think 12 or 15 people. They were like, shit, Raj is really not well. And it just demoralized the whole team. I said, listen, you guys need to crack on with this pool party. You know exactly what you're doing. And I'm just going to go and see a doctor. But when I went to see the doctor, I remember sitting in the hotel room and all these doctors flew in, laid me down on this bed, and they started putting IV drips in me and sort of antibiotic solutions through me. I said, look, I need to be up and running by 6 o'clock. Like, I've got this wedding reception. You need to fix me right now. But I feel shit. So I remember lying on this bed And then some of my team members were coming in and all these pipes like jabbed into my arms and stuff. And then they said, Raj, would you just please go to sleep for a couple of hours? You'll be totally fine. And I was. How amazing. Woke up 2 hours later, bright as a button. God knows what they put inside me. And then, yeah, we smashed the wedding reception. But that was probably one of the most scariest moments of my life. Not because I was going to die or anything, because my event was there and I was running it. I didn't want anyone to fuck it up, you know? So it's like, it's got to be right, you know?
You're almost more scared about ruining the event than actually dying.
Absolutely. My responsibilities to the bride and groom.
Yeah, that's how it takes his work very
Dead or alive. I think it's when we don't get on with the family or the bride. It's really hard. I don't do it now. I interview people and they interview me. Like, we have a chat. Like, do you want this job or not? I'm asking them. And it's like, because, you know, I'm really into energy. I'm really into human connection. And, you know, and I've learned a lot over the 30 years. I'm probably one of the best negotiators between families ever. I could literally solve UN problems. Like, I could go there like ACAS and sort out the unions with the MPs, or junior doctors. If you need any help, give me a shout. I'm amazing at doing that. But comes to a point when you can't even solve that. And the families are really not doing what they said they were going to do. And, you know, you can't run a wedding. It's stressful enough. I told you, we're in the top 5 most stressful jobs on the planet. The last thing you need then is also that consistent pecking. You know, you just can't deliver upon it. It's too stressful.
So can you tell quite quickly now if you want to work with a couple or not?
Yeah, absolutely. We can tell really quickly now. Like, we know the pointers and the questions to ask. And it's, you know, and then we also have this thing with Silver Fox events. Like, we say to people, look, there are amazing people out there that do normal events and normal weddings and beautiful weddings. So if you want to do something like that and you want to cut and paste a beautiful wedding at Lake Como and do something fab, crack on. If you want to come out with us and come and play with us, if you're willing to come and play with us, then you need to come out of the box with us. So if we tell you this is going to happen like this, and your table arrangements are going to look like this, and your structure is going to look like that, and that's the entertainment that you should have, some mad DJ from Glasgow, that's what we do. Or we're going to have Lego men, or, you know, we're going to have these crazy, beautiful things. If you have that in your mind and you're willing to come out of the box with us, then come and let's have this ride. But sometimes we get the cut and paster, and then we're trying to give them Lego men and they're like, oh, we don't do that. And I said, you really don't need us as a company. There are loads of amazing planners out there that could do this job for you. So, yeah. There's a type of, you know, culture or type of wedding that we do in tradition, and they just drink a lot during the day. And I think the uncle touched up one of the daughters from the other side. He thought he was on the dance floor. He thought he'd grope an arse. I think that's cool. And then obviously the dad from that side saw it, and oh my fucking God. You know, like in the salon, you know, when they're throwing chairs in the old cowboy films and stuff. Wild West. Shit, we were hiding behind tables. Like this round table now, we lifted it up to hide ourselves. And these guys were big and they were throwing shit at each other. And I just remember, like, it was like the SWAT team flying in on helicopters and like breaking this whole, it was 500 people. So you had about at least 50 guys on either side beating the shit out of each other. We were really, really scared. Just choose your clients carefully. Let's be really careful. I know sometimes we need cash flow, and I know we need weddings, and I know sometimes the market's slow and some years are not great, but honestly, it's not worth the stress. I would interview your bride and groom, I would talk them through the process and really get a good understanding of them and make sure that you can run how you run an event for them and they understand that and they respect it. Really important.
We might end up on an IV drip like you did that.
Yeah. Don't bother. Just don't do it. They think they can because they can see it on TikTok or whatever that people have organized their own weddings. When they get to that day of event and they've got 20 suppliers or 15 suppliers or 10 suppliers, even trying to coordinate and set that thing up, they will destroy their event. They will destroy their day. They will have the shittiest day on the planet because all they'll be doing is trying to coordinate cold champagne and hot canapes and get the entertainment on. We need the guitarist on. It's not their problem. They're not there to coordinate their day or try and plan their day. Even if you just get, there is these day planners now. Just get a day planner. Please do not organize your own event on the day. Please enjoy your event. It's a one-off occasion. It's live TV. You can't rewind anything. You just need to make sure that you have a fantastic time. Absolutely. And again, until you've been through the process, you don't get what we do. So again, we get this clipboard, and I know Jennifer Lopez had a really nice little earpiece and she's walking around with a clipboard. There's a lot of shit that goes behind that. For you to walk around on the day relaxedly, it means you've done your job correctly 50 days ago and you've planned everything correctly. That's the whole point. If you planned it correctly, you will execute it correctly. So you're walking around with this clipboard, yeah, fair enough, or you're walking around with a headpiece because everything's organized. So if you don't do that correctly, you're not going to have a great day. Yes, we're really underappreciated. Sorry about the rant. I'm really addicted to it. I am absolutely all in. Passionate, love, I don't know what I'd do without it. And I spoke to you before about the euphoria. That feeling is like, why people go on roller coasters when they're going up and down and, they get that feeling in their tummy. That euphoric feeling at the end of an event is so supreme to any feeling you get, or any addiction, going out gambling all night or whatever you want to do. That is an addiction, that feeling. And it's very hard to replicate in our environment any other way. And I think that's the bit that you get hooked into.
Cool. Thank you, Raj.
You're welcome. Done.